Mindset meets medicine, emotional intelligence, and mental wellness for high performers. This is our first episode together, Mike Dulcio and myself, Natalie Tyler. I'm going to let Mike introduce himself and then we'll go from there.
Hi, hello, greetings, and thank you for joining us. Yes, I am Mike Dulcio. Got the pleasure of being here with Natalie Tyler, and I am an EQ mastery coach, which is EQ is for emotional quotient, but we'll get more into that. Nat,
Yeah,
is there
so
anything that you'd like me to jump straight into? Let me know if you have any questions.
yeah, perfect. So I'm Natalie Tyler with ThriveWell Medical Center, and I'm a triple board certified nurse practitioner. So a lot of background in psychiatry, family practice, oncology. But Mike and I really connect well because of just our, I guess, emotional intelligence. Sometimes lacking on my end, but we do well together and bring great partnerships for people, the community. So we just wanted to have an educational conversation, right? That explores like how thoughts, emotions, self awareness, behavioral responses, and just overall well being can be affected, even for high performers, much like those who are listening in. So we'll definitely discuss, I think, the difference between mental health and emotional intelligence while also kind of examining how those two work together. What do you think, Mike?
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Being someone who's been in the originally in the counseling space for a little under 2 decades now. That's crazy to say out loud. And being able to have the opportunity to serve as a coach, consultant, and executive advisor, I found it very, very true how much of an impact emotional intelligence plays in the day-to-day life to the leader of any high capacity, high performing professional is definitely a staple in our lives that goes easily disregarded or not necessarily recognized. But what emotional intelligence is, it really puts a label to our nervous system and the importance of regulating our nervous system. Emotional intelligence is really the ability to accurately recognize and understand how we feel, what we feel, and why we feel the things that we do. In a nutshell, but it's not just for our emotions. It's knowing, being intentional about using our emotions, but also understanding the emotions of others and how we could work around that and how we could utilize that to make wiser decisions, build stronger relationships, and lead with a much greater clarity. So, in other words, emotional intelligence is the literal bridge between what you know and how you actually live.
Wow, that sounds
So,
really deep.
I'll
Yeah,
probably
tell me.
um, so with emotional intelligence, right? You can have a high IQ, you can have incredible technical skills. Between you can have so many credentialing, advanced degrees, years of experience, yet still struggle to communicate effectively. You might struggle with in relationships, or might struggle with conflict or effective leadership, or even stress, even baseline stress, and struggle to be able to begin to even identify stress because I think a lot of people we are very accustomed with living with stress
Hmm.
that it might seem abnormal when it's not actually active in our lives because you almost don't know what to do when it's not happening. So there are things like self-sabotage that is real. But before I chase that rabbit, um those challenges are rarely knowledge problems, especially for the person who is highly successful or highly focused or highly involved, right?
Hmm.
Or over functioning. When people deal with these things and they're dealing with things within their body, it's obvious. It's. I was going to say obviously, it's not obvious. It's obvious when you pay attention to it,
Yeah.
but it's usually more than likely emotional regulation or self awareness problems. And there's a principle that I live by and that I teach. You cannot consistently lead others beyond your ability to lead yourself. And in order for you to lead yourself, it would help to know how to regulate yourself in order for you to be your optimal self or in order you to lead in an effective way. So I
I
know
feel like
I'm
you're thinking
probably
about
saying a
me,
lot
Mike.
of things. So
I can relate to some of those things. No, I could definitely agree because I mean, it's got to be difficult for people who don't realize what's going on, but they're reacting or acting in different ways towards people. And then that sets a different perspective or path for these relationships, right? Even though on the inside, I'm like trying to control all these different things and hold all these different hats and have that stress that maybe I'm even creating for myself. But then how does that
yeah.
appear or present to others? So, a lot of times my patients I get with patients who come in with kids that they think that have ADHD. I'm not against ADHD. I
Hmm.
definitely think it's out there, but some of the things that I've learned is that actually our kids are not well emotionally regulated because of the parents. And parents always
Right.
hate when I say that line. And actually, when I learned it, I personally felt offended as a mother. But I definitely started looking like at myself more and then how I react in front of my kids. What's my emotional regulation? What's my emotional intelligence? And then what am I passing on, to them and help them self regulate? Because I think sometimes we as parents, we sit here and think, oh, well, they know this. They should know this. This is innate, even though we learned it probably years ago, or maybe we didn't learn it effectively enough. But trying to
Right.
learn about your own self and how your body's reacting, even self sabotage, like you said, right? Like you can't hold all these different things up in the air. And then when you let these things, like you take things off your plate and you're like, oh, I should be up here, but I'm down here. There's not, and that's what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Give yourself more. And that doesn't judge your success, right? Your success isn't like how busy you are, how anxious you are, how much you got going on. It's really how well you can, I would
Right.
say, control it or regulate it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Control. Well, that's you hit it on the head, Natalie, because before you can control it, we have to regulate it.
Hmm.
And I also serve as a family consultant, and like you said, I see it all the time. Parents will bring their children or show up with their children and say, fix my child, or my child's acting this way or that way, whatever the case is. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where this anger issue is coming from, or and then when we probe, when we ask questions just to kind of go deeper, it never fails. It's learned behavior,
Yep.
really. It's learned behavior within the household, within the environment that's being set. And I love to share with families the truth of the situation is more is caught than taught. So
Hmm.
when the best ways to be able to aid our children or to teach our children is becoming the model
Yeah.
that we want to see within our children. And yes, we've learned, or a few people have learned about what it means to either breathe deeply or be present in a moment or try to regulate their emotions.
Hmm.
But honestly, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people aren't. People aren't aware generally. It's not even really being taught in schools or whatever the case is. And a lot of these things I know I had to learn and
Yeah.
develop by virtue of my career, by virtue of my profession.
Yeah.
And there's an incredible amount of time where more than I like to admit, but in stating the truth of this situation,
Hmm.
a lot of parents are really just big kids trying to figure it out.
Yes. When do we grow up?
When do we grow up ever? And
That's a whole other
speaking of
topic.
myself, that's a whole other topic for another day.
That's right.
But the beautiful thing is that emotional intelligence, it's not a personality trait that you're
Hmm.
born with. It's a set of skills that can be developed with intentional practice.
Agree.
So when people strengthen these skills, they don't just become better communicators, they become more in control. You
Mm-hmm.
become calmer under pressure, and it affects the way we make decisions. We make wiser decisions. We're
Mm-hmm.
able to resolve conflict
Yeah.
more efficiently, more effectively, and it helps us to create healthier relationships in the
Yeah.
home and especially in the business as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure many of your high performers that you work with are not just family oriented or parents or whatnot, but even our, our single people out there too that are high performers. And how it
Yeah,
just, like you said, if you can self regulate yourself, whether it's different grounding techniques, right? Seeing, touching,
yeah.
feeling, or breathing techniques, like you mentioned, where we can hit, and I'll get a little technical, as you know, I like to do, but you and I have talked
Go for it,
before
Nat. I love it.
about, the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, right? So whenever we get activated, we can sometimes just feel it inside of our body. I've had patients just say, I feel like I'm vibrating. And it's just that activation, that
Mm,
anxiety, the triggers. And we need to calm it down by touching, seeing, tasting, being in the moment. Like you said, you're just being focused on what's happening,
yeah,
identifying it, and regulating it. And you and I have talked about breathing techniques where you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can use like the box breathing technique we've talked about, where you just hold it for so long, breathe for so long.
yeah.
You're really just trying to control that sympathetic nervous system. And we've talked before about putting something cold on your body. You could spritz something cold in your face. You could actually like hold your breath and kind of bear down like you're having a bowel movement. There's really no better way to say that, right? It's just what it is. But those physically trigger your actual body and your different nervous systems and helps to calm down that heart rate, helps to calm down that fear and that panic or that anxiety, I guess you could say. And that is
Yeah.
just few of many techniques to help calm yourself in the moment so that you can then regulate, think about what you're doing. And even later, I have people who journal all the time, just every day, and they look back every day to say, oh, I could have done something different here. I could have done something better. But like you said,
Mm.
you have to be mindful. You have to want to do that. You have to want to put in that bit of work to do it.
I love to hear you explain it, Nat, because you definitely bring the the physiological aspect into it,
Mm-hmm.
the biology of everything into it, and I would ask the question for you that I'm asking is when you see patients and when you're dealing with patients, can you tell where I'll use the term emotional regulation or emotional dysregulation?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell the effects of emotional dysregulation in your patients? Can you share how those things begin to show up
Absolutely.
in your field medically
Yeah, absolutely. So
when
as
someone is not?
you probably do the same thing though. It's like we usually call nursing the mafia, right? Once you're in, you can't get out because you know too much. So yeah, people start to look worn, probably even before they realize that it's happening. So usually they get a little bit more paler, a little bit more darker circles under the eyes, or just like this fatigued look. They can have almost like a hypercortisol look to them, which is where you
Yeah.
have too much cortisol in your body, or stress hormone. And so it looks almost like a cushionic effect. And what I mean by that is you can get
Mm,
the moon face, you can get the hump that's on the back of the neck. No, that might not just be fat gaining up on you, maybe, but that can be part of that cortisol as well. Usually people aren't sleeping well. Usually it's sleeping well. They get overreactive or over irritated to simple things and
mhm.
they just feel like they're on edge where they weren't before. They can also look like
Wow.
emotional fatigue or burnout, right? Even for like our high performers, we can still be successful moving forward, getting things done, but then you can start to be getting burned out. And that can be like your emotional
Yeah.
relationship with your job or what you're doing. You may not love it anymore, or it may feel more like an obligation. And it's almost like this resentment of trying to get your work done, or subconsciously, right? Like you're like, oh, I know okay, I'll talk about me for a second. I know I got to get my charts
Okay, go
done.
ahead.
I know I got to get my charting done. It is the one thing I hate more than anything in this world. So I actually find myself trying to do anything else but charting. I'm burned out on charting. I'll admit to that, but I find myself trying to avoid it. And so if people start to do those things or
Mm,
start to talk about those things, that's where I kind of start to hit and see, well, what's the root meaning there? What are we feeling? What are we seeing? And how can we like change it or make it more effective, more solution focused from there instead of just this um I don't necessarily want to say negative, it's not always negative, but more like victim mindset where it's like, oh, this and this happened to me. And there's a time and a place
right.
to process it. You've got to be able to get through it to move on, but not stay there.
Hmm.
It's more of let's focus on how can we make it better from here, because what's behind me doesn't necessarily define me. I mean, you can have some arguments of it defines who I am. It makes you more aware, more alert, but it doesn't have to
Hmm.
define your future. Your future is always your choice. And so I find when people start to become more future oriented or goal focused or anything like that, you start to see this alleviation from them and more of hope. So you start to see in their eyes almost like a
Yeah.
clarity in their eyes instead of just this
Mm,
foggy, just sullen kind of person. So I know it's a
yeah.
long answer, but there's a lot of components that I look at given all the different experience and education that I've had. You can just look at someone and be like, something's wrong. It could be medical, but it may be psych or vice versa.
Yes, yes, yes. You've touched on a few different points
Oh,
that I'd love to expound on, which I love,
yeah.
which I love. You're exactly right. Like what we don't realize is your body is going to respond the way it's going to respond, and it would be more effective or efficient or beneficial to us to be in control of it
Mm-hmm.
rather it be in control of us. You just shared about you're documenting, you're taking the notes,
Mm-hmm.
and how when you feel like you're over functioning or burning out, you just don't feel like you don't want to do it or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, that happens. I think it's very important to also know that understanding how to not only delegate time or compartmentalize
Mm-hmm.
time, when we don't take breaks for ourselves or we don't place things when we're not intentional
Mm-hmm.
about rest or implementing some form of rest in between spaces, then when our body decides to say, I'm not doing this anymore, it becomes by force then. It becomes outside of
Yes.
my control. And that creates a bottleneck issue to where now you really feel like you really need to get things done and there's nothing good getting done. And the back end is just growing and growing and growing.
Yep.
And taking a more initiative to taking a greater initiative or a more direct approach about it,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, not being a victim about it, but choosing to be um, proactive
Mm-hmm.
or victor towards the situation. It's allowing myself to say, hey, I can allot this amount of time in this day, in this space, and I can commit that for this moment to do this task.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does is it puts you in control of the task instead of the task controlling you. And it opens room for clarity and space and efficiency because you're not acting from a space of I have to get it done. This has to be done now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because when we're in overfunctioning, when we're in burnout mode, the environment amplifies so much more and makes things that much more challenging because
Yes.
now we're irritable, we're frustrated, we're tired,
And what do our
maybe
kids
hungry.
learn and do?
And then what do our kids learn and do in moments like this?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Because they harp on even more, and
Mm-hmm.
it escalates everything
Mm-hmm.
because now we're short tempered, and and kids are going to be kids.
Yep.
But to be able to take control of that situation or plan effectively for it would definitely put us in the advantage in regulating our emotions or being mindful enough to say, you know what? I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm dehydrated,
Yeah.
and hungry.
Yes.
Maybe this is not the best time.
Yep.
Or
Definitely
me to just
dehydration
jump.
and sleep. Like, yes, you need both of those to better emotionally regulate. 100%. Make the time.
One, and how important is hydration?
Oh, so
Hydration is
important.
such an effective part of emotional regulation.
Yes.
It because what it, and I'm going to ask you to share what it does for us physiologically or clinically. Just emotionally, it resets us.
Mm-hmm.
It literally refuels us, and because what it does, it forces us to slow down, to
Mm-hmm.
take in. We're feeding our system, and I'm not going to go into the different kind of chemicals we can put in our body that can affect our
Right.
emotions as well.
Sure.
When I say rehydration, I'm speaking primarily of H2O, of water.
Water, exactly.
Don't come for me, or juices, natural fruit juices, or whatever the case is. But there
Right.
are simple things that we can do now or activate to help regulate our bodies, to help regulate our minds, and to help stabilize our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
A simple thing is drinking water and
Yeah.
hydrating the system. But yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
push it towards you. You go ahead and you share that.
I
Why
love
is that so effective in the world of our nervous system?
You know what's funny is that patients hate hearing that. They hate hearing, or at least in my experience, drink more water. And I try to say it differently than drink more water because they always say,
Yeah,
oh, my doctor just tell me drink more water, and they leave me. I'm like, well, there's reason behind drinking more more water. And even funny enough, you
right.
mentioned earlier about other substances. Little side thing here, I have a elderly patient. She's like, I think in her 90s, and she'll have her sip of alcohol every now and then, like in the afternoon or the evening. But I was over there in the
Mhm.
morning, and she was like, yeah, I'm parched, and she had a glass next to her, and I was like, well, if that's water, why don't you go ahead and drink some water? Because that just helps. And we were talking about this the same thing. And I was like, unless it's
Yeah.
vodka, then maybe not. And she's like, oh no, that's only in the afternoon. So I was like, okay, good. So I thought that was funny. But water is so good for us because, I think to remember back to biology, I think we're 80% water. Don't quote me, I could be incorrect, but it helps with our
75
neurotransmitters.
days.
Right, yeah, it helps our
Yeah.
neurotransmitters, helps with our chemical process in our bodies, helps with our kidneys, which is a major regulation of everything in our body, right? High blood
Hmm.
pressure, mixing with our electrolytes, they work and function better. You can prevent UTIs. And funny enough, I've had this recently too. I've had my elderly patients who are just all of a sudden they feel this mental fog, this fatigue. They talk about
Yeah.
increased emotional dysregulation. They talk about anxiety,
Yeah.
depression, and like irritability, even. And we
Yes.
check their urine, they have a UTI. And why is that? In some cases, it's the way they wipe or what's going hygiene down there. But 9 times out of 10, it's they're not drinking enough water, so they're not flushing bacteria out of their bladder. They're keeping things in there longer. Even like, for example, anything that's in our body, we get rid of it
Mhm.
through our lymphatic system, which is like our lymph nodes, our immune system. That's a way to get rid of it. Stool and urine. So in order to get rid of these things, we need the hydration to actually flush these. And I say toxins, I don't mean to sound like, a supernatural path, even though I do like natural path medicine too.
Right,
But
right.
it's toxins is just that
But it
general
is.
word. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
it's it's different than cortisol, everything in our body. And think about it. We get constipated and we don't drink enough water. I'm I know some people in my life can relate to being constipated and having emotional dysregulation. So,
But think about the implications. Think what that literally means
mhm.
when you get constipated, right?
Yeah.
Won't get into the detail.
Oh, we
Just
can.
thinking
Go
about
for
the
it.
term. I guess we can, right?
Yes.
But so many people are emotionally constipated.
That's a great connection. Oh my gosh. That's why you're so smart.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Remind me to send a check.
I will.
Um, so many people are emotionally constipated,
Hmm.
and how can we identify people that are emotionally constipated?
How
You
do you
use
do
the
it?
term toxin.
Yeah.
How do you identify these people or ourselves even?
Hmm.
This shows itself through toxic behaviors. toxic
Like it.
attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
When we inhibit so much, I'm not going to say good or bad emotions because
Mm-hmm.
emotions just are.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's the lack of expressing these emotions or expressing them efficiently.
Yep.
When it harbors up, it harbors up, it harbors up. Not only does it affect your body, but it affects your mind, it affects your attitude, it affects your state.
Yeah.
And if I could connote it to wearing like a pair of glasses or sunglasses or whatever the case is, it's like putting on a dirty pair of glasses or shades and looking at the world through those lenses
That's a
and
great
thinking that
analogy.
the world and thinking that the world and your environment is dirty or whatever the case is. And you're looking at every situation through
Mm-hmm.
dirty lenses and you're criticizing or becoming hypercritical of everything you're seeing on the outside,
Yep.
thinking it's the outside that's causing it. But no, it's the lenses that we have on. It's the lenses that we chose to wear,
Yep.
or we haven't taken time to actually clean up, to actually step back, to actually express. There's so many. I don't, it's not that there's so many correlations between the physical and the emotional.
Mm-hmm.
They're one and the same. They're one and the same, and they reflect each other. That's why I am heavy on sharing, teaching, educating um, on emotional intelligence because it's really a practical operational system for life.
Mm-hmm.
Because when when we speak of emotional intelligence, when we understand that when we're able to when we're able to change the way that we understand or we perceive things about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
it gives us greater clarity in how we are able to move forward with life and how we're able to deal with people.
Yeah.
Because everything is connected and everything connected to you has the opportunity to change as well. And you realize that you can be in control of the things that you do have an impact on everything outside of you when inside of you is much clearer and healthier or
Agreed.
balanced or regulated.
Agreed. I love all the analogies that you just gave because it's just so clear. Because a lot of times, like you see people are lashing out to other people, but because inside they're thinking, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing that?" But in reality, like you're saying, looking through the glasses, I mean, it's just it's almost revelational. Even though these are things that, of course, you and I know, but when we talk about them, it's just still so eye opening. So you know,
Yeah,
I definitely agree. People, when you hold it in, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like to talk about things. And, it really is about being able to communicate your feelings, like you said, being able to
yeah,
process them, work through them, figure out how to build up a resistance almost into some of these emotional responses, right? Like take it in, think about it, process it, come back to it. But you can do that when you're rested, when you have, good nutrients coming in your body, or at least some kind of food, right? If you're not
yeah.
hungry. And then all of your natural body processes going. I mean, I see it almost every day, and I'm sure you do too. It's just our mental health is just as important as our physical health. And as you said, it's
Absolutely.
completely connected. I have seen people go into surgery and they have this negative mindset of they're going to die or this is going to happen. It's just that negative
Seen it.
that actually changes their outcome. Even in oncology, when I worked in cancer, I saw a major difference in people who try to keep that positive, future focused mindset versus those who
Yeah,
let it eat at them, because I think they're going
yeah.
to come out with more studies in the future where it's how much does our brain play a factor into our physical health, you know?
Oh, you went into the psychosomatic state
Oh
now, which
yeah, it's
I'm sure
coming.
you're well aware about. Yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah.
What do they say? Perception, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or
Yes.
and your perception creates your reality.
Yes.
The thing about emotional, it's we say these things flippantly or just
Mm-hmm.
kind of passingly,
Yep.
and we don't we don't recognize the weight that it holds and how much it's so true and how much it
Mm-hmm.
actually affects us. Like emotional intelligence, and I really want to be clear about because there's a misnomer about the term, and I know the
Okay.
term is still a new. It seems kind of new, but
Mhm.
emotional intelligence isn't about controlling your emotions.
Mhm.
For anyone who's watching this or listening to this, just to be very clear, it's not about controlling your emotions. It's about developing the architecture of presence. It's the ability to remain grounded, aware, and intentional so that your emotions become a source of wisdom
Mhm.
rather than a source of control,
Yeah.
so that we can have the power to lead our emotions instead of be led by our emotions. I'm I'm not trying to be deep.
I just agree
um,
with it all, so
um,
keep going.
it's emotional intelligence is it starts with recognizing what we feel,
Mhm.
because to be specific, when I say leading our emotions instead of being led by our emotions, we're going to feel happy, we're going to feel sad, we're going to feel angry, we're going to feel frustrated. These
Mhm.
feelings are going to happen. We're people. We have to give ourselves permission to feel these things and to allow them to and to allow it to pass through.
Mhm.
And for those of us who struggle with that or don't necessarily know how to do these things, this is where you can seek out the help of a professional,
Mhm.
or you gave some great examples earlier. Um, because we don't, you don't always have to pay money to do these things.
Sure.
We can literally journal, literally go for a walk or breathe,
Mhm.
box breathing, as you mentioned, or diaphragmatic breathing.
Mhm.
You could literally go work out or drink a cold glass of water.
Yes. A whole
These are
glass.
basic things. A cold glass of water. These
Mhm.
are basic things that help us to regulate ourselves, and learn to regulate ourselves so that so that we can live on purpose.
Mhm.
I'm trying to be good because I know we're going to wrap up soon,
Yeah.
but there's so much to what you said, Nat, about pulling from the future
Mhm.
instead of dwelling on the past.
Yes.
An old quote that I've heard a long time ago, I've adopted it for myself. Like you can't move forward looking backwards.
Uh-huh. I like it.
And and the truth of that is it's really about aligning ourselves with who we're becoming
Mhm. Yeah, who do you want
rather
to be?
than trying
So,
to escape, trying to escape who we were.
right.
So if I could share that small insight there with for anyone that's dealing with that dichotomy or whatever the case is
Mhm.
work on developing towards who you're becoming. How do you want to feel? How would you prefer to feel?
Yep.
What do you desire? And moving towards that. And if it starts with a cold glass of water,
Do it.
let's start hydrating.
I like to use the magic wand theory, which you may know about too. Obviously, it's kind of what you're talking about, right? What is it? If I had a magic wand, I could make anything happen for you. What would it be? And a lot of times people will say, I want to go here, but does this also include more money with the magic wand theory? So it's really visioning, like you said, where you want to be. And then once you see that vision, a goal for yourself, then now it's breaking it down those smaller steps, right? Like, how do I get to be that person? It's kind of like what you were talking about.
I love that. I love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love that, Nat. And what I really loved about that statement is the key word that you used
Mm-hmm.
was get to.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get to be that person?
Yeah.
This is not because it shifts it from moving from a space of duty,
Uh-huh.
and it brings it into moving from a place of desire.
Yes. It's
How
almost
do I
motivating.
get to Yes, it's motivating.
Yeah.
It's a want. It's a need, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a want. And when we move with wants, we're more motivated to seek it out. So we
Yeah.
do have the opportunity to get to be better people by regulating who we are, by going to see Natalie and get checked up in total, and listening to the basics.
It's the basics. Well, before we wrap up, I actually want to ask you, so what is like one, I know we've covered a lot already, but what would be like your one thing you could say to somebody tonight that could help them build emotional intelligence? And of course, when you say emotional intelligence, I think emotional maturity, kind of along maybe similar backgrounds, like getting that resistance, getting to where you want to be able to, like you said, don't let your emotions control you. But
Yes.
what kind of tip or trick or thought process would you give to someone to help them to start to build that emotional intelligence?
Great question, Ali. What I would share with anyone, I would encourage them to, even if they like to just kind of put their hand over their heart
Mm-hmm.
and say, "You're okay. You have permission to feel what you feel, and it's valid. You don't have to permission to live there, but you
Mm-hmm.
have permission to honor that feeling. Give
I like
yourself
it.
permission. Give yourself grace. Be okay with whatever you did. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you had a moment. Maybe you feel bad. Maybe you're harboring some kind of pain or unforgiveness for yourself. Honor that moment. Recognize it. Accept it because acceptance is not approval.
Mm-hmm.
Accept it, and it's only then we can begin to let it go because we're going to choose to be better tomorrow.
I don't know if it was your voice or me imagining it. I definitely felt my my sympathetic nervous system just calming down.
I love how you just completely clinicized the term. I think what Natalie just said is, I love how you just offered me a sense of relief
Yes.
or alleviation or
I'm too much of a geek. I'm sorry. It's the nerd in me.
I love
Yes.
it. I love it. I'm just
Relax.
teasing. Yeah.
I love it. And I think, honestly, as we touched before already, I think from the other standpoint of helping, if you just don't feel like yourself, you just feel overly irritated or high anxiety and all this stuff is going on, you can't control whatever it is that's going on. I have the same concept. It's like step away, maybe you don't have enough sleep, try to take a nap or go to bed early or set aside intentional time away from work, kind of like what we said this whole time. So, like going on a walk. And
Yeah.
if you have kids or family and you're like, I'm not spending enough time with them, but I got to do all the, then set aside that time, like going on a walk. Physical activity is just time away, even if
Yeah.
it's 30 minutes. Take 10 minutes if you're at work, go to the bathroom. We all do. Sit there and be mindful or just
Right.
let your system relax, refresh, and go back at it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Great, great, great advice. I agree. I co-sign on that 100%. And
Perfect.
um and I look forward to the future discussions that we're going to have
Me too.
because I know this can go in so many different there's so much nuggets here
Oh, yeah.
on that I think you can share and I can share that will benefit not only us and our families, but the ones who are watching and listening.
Absolutely. I can't wait. We'll have more. I'm sure we'll have more fun along the way too and more nerdy talk. And yes, I always love your insights and it's awesome. So, any other thing you want to say, Mike, before we end it?
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. And I would share for anyone watching in whatever platform they have any questions about anything. Feel free to leave a comment or and with whatever platform that you find.
Mhm.
If you're looking, you can find me, Coach Mike, on Facebook with at Coach Mike D or Mike D on Facebook and also on Instagram as well. And my website is www.coachmike.org. If you're interested and you have any more questions or comments, we could chat. We could just have a cool, casual, nice conversation and then go from there. But that's all for now. I just hope that whoever's hearing this received immense value and always here to serve.
Perfect. And then just one last statement. Everything we talked about today was not medical advice, more of education and talking between two colleagues. So I agree with Mike. If you want to reach out more questions, you can also find myself on thrivewellmedicalcenter.com or on Facebook, ThriveWell Medical Center LLC. We do have many different platforms we're going to post this on, so we're excited, and we're excited to see you guys in the future. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Natalie. It's been a pleasure.